All right, guys and girls, sorry. Let's give me to see if we have
Hello,
a bigger
everyone.
audience, then we'll just start. Hey, can hear you? Yeah.
What's up, guys? Nico is money.
All right. We'll kick off the screen sharing in a minute now, and then we'll move it from there. Okay, just please stand by for a minute more. If
Let's
anyone
get
can,
a couple of more minutes.
Yeah.
It's a little bit of delay sometime.
All right.
Hello, beautiful people.
Hello, beautiful Dutchman.
Hello.
Hey there.
Hey there.
How's it going?
Pretty good.
Nice, nice.
All right. Okay. Do we have a screen share loading at the moment, or I can try on my side? It won't. I'm not sure if it's going to work from the phone.
I can share it.
Please, if you can. I will have you doing the secretary work. I'm sorry for that, Alicia, but it will help a little bit.
Okay, fine. All right. Just tell me if you guys can see it, if you can see it on full screen.
Yes, very beautiful.
Yep, that's
That's awesome. Like I am not quite sure, like if Block is around and is still. I have my screen on full screen, so like I can see the participants right now.
He's not yet here. I can start anyways. I don't see him online as well. So let's kick it off. Whenever he joins us, he can continue. So let me take the lead on driving the call, and we'll see if he gets on board or not. Okay, cool. So
Awesome.
let's kick it off so we get the best out of the time. So thank you everyone for joining. So long-awaited community call. Just brief introduction. You might see my first time. Have started working with PyDAO as a product manager for a couple of weeks now. So I see this as a very interesting moment to start getting the feeling on how you guys give feedback to us. We wanted to present a couple of updates which we think are meaningful. We are going to record the meeting. I think Nico, you're working on that, or you will take in the lead on that as requested. Cool. For the people that could not join, we do expect this session to take around an hour and 15 minutes. Could be a bit more and a bit less. We'll have a demo for the staking governance, mining, or the dog staking process that is currently in the forum for approval. And we'll go on the forum for discussion. And we'll go on a couple of items that I'm going to comment right now to all of you. The idea is that we have a slide for each of them. We have a presenter for each of them. We'll talk about it. We'll give a couple of minutes in case there are questions, comments. We'll address those questions and comments, and then we'll move on to the next one. Okay. And end of the session, there will be an open talk in case anyone wants to bring anything up, so we can all have a chat, an unstructured chat. Okay. So I see, Alessio, you already moved to the next slide, which is very good. So this is the order we're going to get the agenda now. We have a POAP. Then there was going to be an update about the Treasury Committee that's going to be taken care of by Jay Nova. Then Alessio will walk us through the new implementations that we did in the last couple of weeks. The token migrations that also were done a couple of weeks from the last couple of weeks. Then I'll give you an update on the product management side, so what we have achieved since I joined the team regarding the organizational structure of the core team. An update about the roadmap, the last roadmap that was presented to the DAO, and where we are on each of the deliverables. I will be sharing with you some statistics, which we think are meaningful, just to mention them, also to set the base for next meetings, so we can start talking about these points that show some visibility about the growth of the community. Then we'll have a quick catch up on each proposal that's currently on the forum, the top proposals. We have some of the proposers, to put it that way, submitters on this call. The idea is that each one can give us a brief comment about what the proposal is about, what the benefit is about, just to raise awareness, so you can then go to the forum, jump in, and read it through for the ones that you are interested in collaborating. And last but not least, Alessio will will make a brief about the dog staking process and the simulation, a demo about the simulator. So the idea is that you can, after the community call, you just can go ahead and try it yourselves. Good. That's enough, I guess. Let's go to the first point. Let's see if you can just transition to the next one. Good.
Absolutely.
So, cool, great. First one is a POAP. Nico has developed this beautiful proof of attendance. We are leaving. I'm going to post this slide on the forum. Okay. If it's not after this call, it will be done by Monday, early Monday. The idea is that if you can follow these steps, you will get the POAP in place. You will get a DM from Gab to get it on next day. But just be aware that we'll be reaching out to give you the specific address to go to and pick it up. Okay. Would you like to start?
Hey everybody, this is our first time giving any kind of update, formally about the Treasury Committee. So just wanted to start by, walking through who we are and what we've been up to so far. We have 4 members on the committee, 2 strategists, block enthusiast. He's an active community member and originally proposed the Treasury Committee in the forum. Federico, he's the founder of Liquidity Folio. He's also really active in running a crypto-based hedge fund, and the 2 of them are really taking the lead on exploring strategies, getting us some market signals, and helping us figure out how we can best deploy the funds that we have available. I'm Jay Nova. I have been around for a while, since 2019, working with PyDAO. Some of you may also know me as the famous proposer of the balanced crypto Pi. So I've been around, as coordinator. I work with the team both on kind of how to execute the strategies that we come up with, and also how to connect what we're doing to the core team and to the community. And the original proposal also included an analyst role. We had Alex from Nansen AI. He started with us, attended the first few meetings, and helped us come up with the original strategies. But he has since bowed out. They raised some money and are growing their team, and ultimately had trouble keeping up with the commitment. So that's a vacancy on the committee for now. What we've been doing, we had the proposal approved on July 6th. One of the first things we did is really have some conversations with the core team and with each other about, what are we trying to do here? What we did was we came up with a performance benchmark of, I think you can think of it as like, what would the DAO have done if we had nobody actively managing this? And what we came up with was, we wanted to leave significant exposure to ETH because, we think long-term ETH will continue to appreciate. But we did want to, de-risk a little bit, put some money towards DAI, and most importantly, deploy all these funds in yield farming strategies so that we could get some income, really shifting from a pure growth to a blended growth and income strategy. So looking at the market of, some very well-established, close to risk-free yield opportunities, we came up with benchmarks of 5.8% annual yield for ETH and 10% annual yield for DAI. And together that gives us our performance benchmark to, try and actively manage against. As a committee, between July 6th and July 21st, we decided on two initial goals. One was, looking at the market, we did see some signals that pointed to the possibility of, a prolonged down market for ETH that it had been in for a few months at that point. So, we decided rather than immediately switching to DAI as indicated in the benchmark, we would dollar cost average into it. That keeps us with some higher ETH exposure along the way, while we can continue to just monitor the market, see how things are developing. That has proved to be a good strategy because ETH has obviously outperformed lately. So that decision alone has us outperforming the benchmark a bit. Even though we are still predicting, or I shouldn't say predicting, we're cautious about ETH price movements for the rest of the year. We revisit this every time we meet and are constantly looking for new indicators and deciding how we want to play that. The second goal was to deploy 100% of the funds to earn yield. So as of this morning, we have 94% of the Treasury funds that are actively farming. 4% are in an LP pool, earning there but not farming. 1% is just raw ETH in the wallet. So far, since July 21st is when we kind of said, okay, we've got an initial strategy and a benchmark. Let's start measuring our performance from there. We're up about 2.5% over the benchmark. And now with the yield strategies that we have in place, we're earning about $3,000 a day in a mix of reward tokens. So next, what we're looking to do is come up with our first monthly performance report. We intend to do those at the end of each month. We'll give a summary of what moves we've made, where we're deployed, and what the performance has been to date. You can see we also stood up a Discord channel to get more frequent discussion and dropped a template in there. We really want to use that template going forward, both to clarify our own thinking and help with our process, but also then distribute the same template for a way to source ideas from other people in the community, so we can just be really articulate about, hey, what's the investment change that we're thinking about? What indicators or analysis have we made that show that would be beneficial to the portfolio? And then get into some of the tactics, like which funds are we going to redivert here? How do we go about doing it? One of the things we've learned is that a lot of the strategies we have in mind are difficult to execute because doing it from multi-sig requires time to get people together, a lot of manual work to build the transactions. So we just want to get really clear on what are we looking to do here and what will it take to make that transition. And then, the third thing, I think there's more on this later in the call, but we're looking for the process to really hook the reward tokens that the Treasury portfolio comes up with into a rewards pie to be used elsewhere across the DAO. Adrian, would you flip the slide, please? Or Alessia, sorry. Too far. Okay, cool. So to wrap a quick overview of where we stand right now, Treasury is valued at $16.18 million. That's denominated in USD. You can see we have 94% in staking pools across Alchemix and Convex. There's a mix here of mostly ETH, but some growing DAI positions as well as we work through that dollar cost averaging, and a little bit of BTC denominated pools as well. The 4% that we have in a liquidity pool that is not staking is a balancer V2 pool between 50% ETH, 50% wrapped Bitcoin. The bit that we have that is not earning anything right now is ETH. We're talking about a few strategies and what to do with that, especially as we get some more ETH. We're not in a rush to deploy it as we continue to sell ETH for DAI. So, it made sense to kind of leave it there for now as we do the dollar cost averaging and work out our next set of strategies. And then below, you can see what we farmed so far. So we've got $33,000 in there worth of LDO, CRV, CVX, Alchemix, Keep, Balancer, and Staked Aave. So, good mix there. You can see Lido is really kind of leading the way, but there's a number of tokens there that we think are good, high quality projects and tokens to add to the mix.
Great, Jason. Is there anything
Thank you
else
very
you'd
much,
like to
Jeff.
cover, or can we open for questions?
We can open.
Cool. So does anyone have any comments, anything, any feedback, anything you would like to bring up before we move on to the next slide?
Oh yeah, me maybe. Like, do you think like you said, like it's some things are hard because it take a lot of transactions to execute. Do you think there's possibly also like could be like a product where we automate these things in pies and then a lot of people can do these complex things, or just a random thought, but
Essentially, I think there's really two pieces to this, right? Like one is tooling to execute, and the other is the strategy we wish to deploy. So, I think part of the implication of the Treasury Farming Committee is that the DAO, decided that it did want to take an active management approach for the Treasury funds. So that's what we're doing. I think going into it, there was some discussion in the forum that there are products for this, and I think DAO voters were aware of that going in. But it's something that we can all continue to think about in the future. Once we are making decisions about what we want to do with the funds, and yeah, there's a question of tooling. I think some of it is about process and how do we as a committee work effectively to be able to enter the strategies that we want and do it in a way that's timely, takes advantage of market conditions, and also achieves the best results. But other parts of it, I think, are just learning and using tools available on the market. So, for example, this is safe as a multi-sig. There's definitely some friction there in gathering signatures, but some of the bigger friction we've had is that there are a lot of transactions that we have to construct manually. Sometimes there have been failures or errors or something there. So we're working on some internal tools to cut down on that. There are also an ecosystem of Gnosis Safe apps that kind of port dApps into the Gnosis environment. When those are available, they're really helpful. They cut down on errors and they accelerate the speed that we can execute transactions. It is an open ecosystem, so it might be interesting to think about where we might either do some development ourselves or encourage development in the Gnosis ecosystem to help us.
yeah, I think that's
My
interesting. Like
perspective,
maybe
like if I can. Oh, sorry.
Oh no, like when you have like certain friction points, then maybe it would be interesting to post them on the forum. Like maybe somebody can do something about it, or we can poke some dApp developers to develop a Gnosis Safe app. Or
That's a
From
great
my
point,
perspective,
Nick.
like on yeah. Sorry, I'm handling the queue very.
Problem, please go ahead, Alessio.
All right, I just want to say, like, I just wanted to say, like, kind of getting back to Nick's point, like, I actually think there is a lot of potential for sort of the Treasury Committee to basically kind of be a playground for strategies, which eventually over time might be sort of productized. And I think that would make a lot of sense. I think right now there is a sort of an experimentary phase where it's unclear where some of the strategy will be sustainable over time, or if it does make sense to codify them into sort of smart contracts, which can be used like in specific POAPs. But I'm quite excited about that possibility. Like the Treasury Committee might end up into, sort of a place where they feel like that specific sort of set of action will be, worth replicating, like in way which are, sort of completely automated, and then, completely skip sort of the Gnosis Safe multi-sig part of it, right? So yeah, I think that there is a possibility for that, like 100%.
Yeah, it's a good point. I mean, block enthusiast a couple times has said that on our calls of like, hey, I wish we had this in PyVaults. So I think to your points, both of you, I think we can try to make more of a point to document friction that we feel trying to execute this manually, and feed that back to the group as potential areas either for community contributions to enable the Treasury Committee or as potential product ideas.
Right. Is anybody else want to sort of make a question or like some comments for JDalva? If not, it will very likely update us with a report like shortly, I think sometimes at the end of the month. Is that correct?
That's right. Also, if anybody has like formats that they like a template that they want to suggest we follow for those monthly updates, now would be a good time. We've done a little research and compiled a few examples, but haven't really started designing that yet. So this would be a great time if anybody has something they've seen before and they like.
yeah, I
Awesome,
think
thank you very
Jörn
much.
did a monthly earnings report, like right, or like quarterly or something. Like maybe
Yeah.
making it a bit bigger, not only doing the treasury farm, but also like the financial state of the DAO itself.
That's interesting, Mick. I think like we definitely signed up to make sure that we report the performance of the Treasury. I think we don't necessarily have our hands on the broader DAO finances, but very happy to make the way that we provide our updates through a format that's compatible with other reporting across the DAO, if that makes sense. I'm not sure if that exists yet, but yeah, I think it's a good idea. Very happy to collaborate with anybody thinking about that.
You might want to check with Federico. I think like he probably has some very good ideas about how to make reporting tools for those.
Sure.
Good. Is there any other question before we move on? So we give every topic the necessary time? No?
Looks like that's it.
Cool. Remember that there's a channel open for a Treasury Committee. If you have anything, just pass by and drop your comments in.
Oh yeah, absolutely. So hey guys, what's up? So in here, like I'm kind of making a quick updates of the different implementation which have been sort of popping out within the PyDAO GitHub. There are like a couple of things, both on the smart contract side, but also on the web application side, which I think are worth pointing out. So the very first one, and the vast majority of the endeavor on the smart contract side has been dedicated to the DOL staking contracts. These contracts can be fetched from the repository. We will link this documentation, well, like you will find it on the PyDAO GitHub. This is currently the state of the repository is pretty much frozen. in terms that we have pretty satisfactory sort of test coverage, like on all the different functionality, and we kind of consider that to be a sort of code-free is pre-audit ready. The sort of moving along with the audit will come partially like response from talk later about. There are a couple of more things which are quite interesting, which have been discussed from the community, which is to decide to have a subgraph. That's something that we've been starting on both for the staking side. So we kind of decided that this is like a great point to start developing subgraph for everything new that we do. And as such, you will find a dedicated repo which is only dedicated for everything which is staking related. It's currently only deployed to Rinkaby since staking is not live on mainnet, but you can go and look in. Secondary, there is another subgraph which has been popping out. This one is currently deployed on mainnet, which is designed to actually track pies, and eventually over time will do all sorts of things, including logging any sort of minting event or unwrapping event, adding new tokens, removing new tokens. So I can basically make an historical, sort of a great historical data set of everything which is pie related.
Sorry,
consequences of that.
I'm not sure is the slide can be seen. I mean, not from my end.
It is visible. It is visible. I can.
Okay. So it's my issue. No problem. Thanks.
Cool. No problem. So the consequences of that is more and more we're going to start sort of integrating the use of subgraph within the website for a couple of reasons. The first one, we want to make it faster. Like it's going to job work a lot better, like from a sort of a performance perspective. And the second one is going to be a lot easier on the nodes that we run, since we can basically fetch a lot of data like all together by just making it query. One of the things which has been deployed, and this is quite new, like you will find a new repo which is called Nest.js backend. This new backend project has been designed for laying down like the foundation of a sort of a larger and broader backend. But it all started for providing a reliable endpoint for historical data of net asset value of a specific pie, which can be used as a source of truth on KPI options made by UMA. As you guys might remember, we have been discussing about using a KPI option built on UMA for a little while. And most recently, we've been discussing using that as a source of incentives for working groups. And in order to do that, we need basically way for the UMA Oracle to resolve. And that's what this serves. So you can go and check that out. If there is any sort of Nest.js expert on it, like obviously, it's very welcome to go and give their feedback. One more thing which has been deployed, which is in the interest of making the nav project work out, but also can be used for a variety of other things, is the Pi asset getter. This specific repo answers one job, like it only does one thing very well, which is basically, regardless of each one of the underlying asset within a Pi, might be deployed like on a variety of different DeFi protocol in order to generate yield. It will give you all the list of the underlying assets and the amounts, getting back like the actual underlying. That's useful because like it makes it a lot easier to sort of identify the NAV value at a specific point. And it also can be used for other things, including making Chainlink Oracle. And that's been a little bit of a blocker that we've been encountering along the way because we needed an on-chain reliable way to fetch that data. So that's done and deployed on mainnet. You can go and check it out. If you use it, make sure to use static call instead of a regular call. Otherwise, you're going to end up paying sometimes. One more thing, there is a new repo. Like as you guys might remember, we've been pretty much experimenting with this idea of the Oven V2 for a little while. That didn't work out exactly the way we expected. So eventually, we decided to completely rewrite the entire contract by using like a sort of a different approach. So as you can see, the name now is there is a strike through on it, and I actually renamed that as a stove, just to make like the distinction clear. There is a new repo in there, like it uses a completely different approach. You can go and check it out. This is not still deployed on mainnet. We're still in the phase of like sort of heavy testing this. Like we don't want anything bad to happen again. So in the upcoming days, you will actually see sort of a different branch implementing fuzzy testing using the app tools. Sorry about that, guys. And then, yeah, so like you will see that like potentially we will go on mainnet with that once we feel comfortable the entire testing phase, like it's satisfactory. One with how can we use sort of other protocols or asset manager protocols to sort of build a different type of products. Something that we realized when we made early conversation with potential working groups, such as the one of Scale or other pies which have been proposed by the community, is that eventually the operational cost of onboarding these people and kind of feeding them the knowledge to sort of manage the pie somehow can be a bit tricky. So we are experimenting right now if we can use Enzym as a way to provide pretty much a fully featured UI to sort of actively manage internally the pie through a multisig. So that's a kind of an experimentation phase, like, and it's been interesting to check it out. Like, if you guys want to go and see the code, you will find that under Enzym Pie. Last but not least, a couple of updates on the sort of non-smart contract side, more software engineering. Because of the proposal of the DOE staking, we have been developing a simulator, which I will show you like a little bit later during the proposal, which is meant to answer a couple of questions in terms of how the possible scenarios might look like in terms of DOE staking, and what that can mean for you as a DOE staker. Last but not least, we've been improving the bot infrastructure, and there is also an open dashboard that you can look at. I put the link over there, so you can see all the active, oven bots at any time, like if they're running, when the last check was performed, and then selected members right now can basically get credential to kick the bot. Like we've been having this meme within the Discord channel to kick the bot to make it bake, and then they will be hopefully available for a limited amount of people, like so that we make sure you always bake. And I think that wraps it.
Great, Alessio. Amazing. Does anyone have any question? I think we covered a lot of topics, so if you can be specific, that would be great. But please let us know if you have any comments. Okay, last call. Any comments? Any questions?
Or regardless,
All right.
like you can sort of always ping like on the development channel or anything else. By the way, I don't know if anybody of you, like there were a couple of contributors like in the last sort of couple of months making PRs, like especially on the Pulse repo and some others. Like I don't know if you guys are there, but like I just want to say like we really appreciate these things, like, and you guys rock. So that's it. Next slide. Yeah, this is just a sort of making sure like that you guys are all kept updated about sort of bookkeeping stuff like regarding pies. There has been a couple of migration within the internal pies. These things are not strictly related to our balancing or anything else, but some of the underlying tokens have been migrated to sort of new contracts, especially in Play. If you guys have been following the NFTX project a little bit, like you will know their funds have been evolving. So there have been a couple of migration along the way for Punk Basic to Punk, Mask to V1 to V2, and also for the AXS token, which is now actually like has been transitioning to their own blockchain for their own reasons, like, and eventually had to migrate the token. That's kind of an FYI slide.
Cool. Anyone? Comments? Any suggestions before we continue to the next one? All these points were announced on the announcement channel at the time they were done, but it's good to keep in track this way. So if you have any other comments, again, you can always reach out to the team. The current slide, I own this one. So we have done a couple of implementation and changes. on the structuring of how we work with the core team at the moment. It will expand and to have a, I want to say layer of control, but you have to develop a better synergy within the committees and everything that it's impacting the roadmap for the DAO and all the deliverables we have. So we started from scratch. We built up a backlog. We use Jira for that. We are currently running our second sprint, which finishes today. And we are doing, we will be doing from Monday onward 2-week sprints. And we are getting used to the process, to a tool to accommodate that to our specific needs. It has shown that we have way better visibility on the planning, way better visibility on the workload, and on the long run, this is a very good thing to put in place. Everyone can argue if Atlassian Jira is the best tool ever or not. It adds a lot and serves the purpose that will later take us to have visibility on the long run, on the product long run deliverables. Will help us definitely improve the governance processes, because most of what we are going to do is going to be on a single tool that we can manage with filters and specific reports. It gives us a better and augmented visibility on the progress on each deliverable, and it's also give us better update ways on how we work, our definitions of deliverables. We keep everything recorded in the same place. So if you have used this before, you know the benefits it brings. You also know that there's a learning curve, but the team is doing great adopting the Jira tooling at the moment, and the specific way we set it up. Then we set a service management service at the moment. This is part of the Atlassian suite. Basically, if you have a bug, there's a portal for you to submit that bug, and that will automatically create an issue on our list, and we will tackle it either through sprint planning, if it's something that can wait, or we'll address it. The idea is that once you submit it, you have 2 ways. You can do it through a portal, you can do it through an email. That will go directly to will be directly assigned to a person. The person will be responsible for replying back, and you will get a notification once the issue is closed. That will help not forgetting or not missing the reported issues that are on Discord that usually tend to go up on the list, and some things are unattended. This is a tool to address the reported bugs that you all share, keep track of them, and give you an update and have the historical information of what we have done. Also, this portal lets you show improvements and share improvements, not only issues. So we can capture that as well, include them as part of the backlog, and develop them with the core team. Last but not least, on the recruitment side, we continue using the Angel list to get our new job postings. The difference now is that we are going to start working with something that's called native forms. Native forms is it's very similar to a Google form. The only good thing that it has different to Google Forms is that it connects directly to Jira. So we set up a flow for recruitment and for the new candidates review. We have a Kanban board for that, and once you submit through Angel, we'll send you a link with more specific information about what we need from that specific role to make an assessment, and then we'll have a dashboard and a cadence, a meeting with the necessary cadence to review each candidate and do 2 things. First is get a better process to evaluate people that will be fit for the role, and secondly, start building a resource pool, which is something we don't have right now. A database of people that's interested to work on, and we capture the information we need for each specific role. So that will lower the impact of attrition, because we will already have in the best scenario, a lot of people to reach out to immediately after someone just doesn't want to work anymore on certain specific task. And it could be within the core team, or it can be within any of the work streams or committees that may rise on the DAO. I'm stopping now. I'm opening for questions or comments from anyone in this call.
Before anybody comments or like my question, I just want to say that like I'm extremely excited to have you on board. Like I think you are doing a lot of great work to basically structuring a lot of the things which were a little bit in the air, and I think generally speaking, the organization will benefit greatly from it. I'm excited to see like a process which is designed to scale and which will serve sort of as a framework for like onboarding future working groups, like future contributors, in a way that they can do their best work with in the maximum of clarity. So that's me.
Thanks for that. Anyone else? Does anyone have any other comments? No? Okay, Alicia, if you can go to the next one, please. So we'll give you on this slide, you may see it a bit small, yet you will get the summary on the once we post it on the forum. So these are the 6 deliverables we had defined for Q2, right? So this is a very brief summary of where we are standing on each of them. So they're ordered not in priority, they're ordered by completion. So we have from the 6 deliverables, the first one, which is the growing partners, where we onboarded Watchman, PR, and Wintermute. This effort has been completed. Both partners have been onboarded at the moment. There are no issues, no concerns on this point. And we have a next step just to put a poll on the community, just to assure if we're going to proceed with Watchman beyond September, because the first contract is still there. So we might open it for a poll in case we doubt that the benefit, the return of benefit is enough from their work. The important thing is that Watchman is going to play a vital part on the marketing for the staking, for dog staking, in case it gets approved. And hopefully, if they could do a great job, we continue a partnership and we continue benefiting from each other. The second point is about dog staking, which is what Alice is going to present. This is on track at the moment. It has been developed. The proposal, it's currently on the forum. We have, and Alice will cover this later, but we have a timeline to get the PIP open for voting before the end of this month. And the only thing that will put us apart from deploying it and on the mainnet and getting it 100% ready, it's the audit. We have been struggling the last couple of weeks to get auditing companies to give us a quote, and we have 3 options at the moment. We already have a candidate that's good in price, good in amount of resources, and with a good SLA to give us the result of the audit. So if everything goes according to what we expect in the core team, we'll have the forum open for a couple of days more. We'll submit to PIP voting the initiative. After it's voted, if it's accepted, of course, we'll submit it for audit. And after audit, if there's any findings, we'll fix, and then we'll deploy. So all this should go around the mid-September or a bit earlier to get the feature released. The next topic is expanding the team. It is currently in progress. The achievements are that we onboarded 2 resources, one front and back end engineer, which is Toto. It's currently off today, and well, myself as a product manager. So we covered 2 out of the 3 roles we were looking for. The open role at the moment, it's a head of marketing. we expect that that role it's kind of covered through the community proposal, community engagement proposal that Brian's going to talk about later. Otherwise, we'll keep on the search, and we are increasing the search on the senior smart contract engineer, which is a job posting already posted on Angel. And as you may know, the issue or the blocker we currently have is our market conditions. There's very little amount of resources available to get onboarded. It's taking a lot of time to evaluate them properly, and the amount of applicants is very low. So we're trying to get the best candidate. So far, the best candidates seem not to have shown up on all the fields. On this field, what we are going to do is, as mentioned before, get a better flow for recruitment and evaluation, and we'll start socializing better the open positions you see to attract more resources that we need to move forward. The next point is the EVM compatible chains, and this is about the Polygon test case. This is currently in progress. We're developing this solution design, so how we are going to implement it. It has been a pilot made, but it's not yet in place. The main reason why this is still in progress is not as close as completion as docs taking, is basically resource constraints, and this goes with the item we discussed before. It has been very hard to onboard people, and this roadmap, I'm not sure if you remember the forum post, but the last point was expanding the team, and being the expansion of the team, one of the key dependencies to achieve everything we had on the roadmap. Not having that completed with the right amount of people, some of these items either were slow on the velocity of their delivery or were not completed as expected. The next one will be PyVols 2.0. This effort is currently on hold. It's the same situation as we discussed before. It has not been delivered or started beyond the discovery phase due to resource constraints at the moment. So from our point of view, we should put on voting this item if we are going to either drop the effort for the next couple of months, or if you are going to include it in the Q3, Q4 roadmap and dedicate resources to deliver it. Last but not least, about the Treasury Vaults. This was an initiative to create a new product. We had two prospects in line to try out their cases. One was Aragon, the other one was Nexo. For different reasons, they didn't move forward, or we couldn't move forward. They were not fitting into the model we wanted to implement, or we expected to implement. And even though considering that the infrastructure is ready to get this done, there have not been more prospects on the line to follow the process and try another use case and see if this actually worked or not. Same as with the PyVols, so the previous item, we should put a poll to understand if we should carry on with this effort and try to get more prospects or just drop it. Sorry, does anyone want to say anything? Okay, so as a summary, we kept the focus on the team on the staking and growth partnerships.
Can you mute yourself? Could you mute yourself? There is yeah.
Okay, so the key issue has been resource constraints, as I mentioned before. How can we avoid this type of, how can we avoid missing this type of roadmap deliverables? I'm a strong believer that we should diversify if we want to deliver more. That's why I'm very excited about the about having independent work streams like the Treasury Committee that can work on an independent way, and we can sync up efforts at the program level, having each one of them working as a work stream. Another key highlight, just to mention, is that 2 of these deliverables, which are mentioned as on hold, will need to be either dropped or moved to the next roadmap, and that will be subject to voting from the community. I'll make a stop here. I let anyone who has any comments, please shoot. Okay. Galicia, could you move to the next one? Talk about the next steps, which will be the Q3, Q4 deliverables we will have in line. So for the Q2, the ones that are in progress, we'll keep working on them. The ones we already did something, we'll keep carrying on. And as mentioned before, we'll have a voting for the 2 that we either descope or include in the new roadmap. For the new roadmap, we are working on what we expect to be the next deliverables we can achieve in the next couple of months. That's been drafted. Okay, we are giving a shape internally, and of course, we'll get a post on the forum for everyone to jump in, make their calls, and just state what you believe about each point we want to achieve. Just as an update or as a sneak peek, partially, most of them will be related to organizing the internal structure in order to make the teams more scalable, in order to have the right tools in place, the right processes in place, so we can be more efficient and we can do more in the near future. I would say that's in progress. Okay, the post, I'm expecting it to have it ready by the 31st of August, so end of this month. That's not a firm date. Okay, it could be a bit earlier, a bit later, but seems totally feasible to get it done by end of month. Discussions are pretty much advanced. We are just in a couple more meetings to wrap up the idea and build up the forum post. And once we get it, we will submit it for voting, and it will be for the community to decide if we should work on all of them, partially of them, discard, or start from scratch. Any comments from anyone at this point? Okay, last call. Does anyone have any concerns or anything you would like to share?
Maybe
All right.
are you guys also planning on doing a new pie, or is that not in the planning at the moment? Or that's the scale and the other one, right?
I think Saganaki will give an update about scale. Like we have like some updates about scale. Regarding that, like it's yeah.
I
There are a couple of forum proposals
I jumped in,
around
but
new pies.
Adrian.
Go ahead, sorry.
I just jumped in for a second. Adrian has some notes from my end. I'm not able to stick a while.
Okay.
Yes, I will cover for Saganaki. We had a talk about, he briefed me just to give a recap on that. So regarding new pies, there are 2, if I'm not wrong, right? My mind might be tricking me, but there were 2 pies proposed, M pie and scale are still on the table on the forum as proposals. We'll get the details later, but I don't believe that from the core team we're going to suggest implementing a new pie on the roadmap yet. The roadmap is not fully closed, so I wouldn't say definitely yes or definitely no. Any other questions or comments? All right, Alessio, could you go to the next one, to the statistics page? Good. So we'll talk about a little bit about the product statistics, and then we'll go to some forum statistics. This will be nothing too mind-blowing, just an FYI, and I think it's interesting to start collecting this information for future meetings and compare. So first of all, the dopamine program has distributed 6.77 million rewards. 1.3 are liquid, so we're making a distinction in the table, if you can see, during the first 4 periods. And it's worth mentioning that the 5th period is starting this weekend. Okay, we saw an increase of the dog holders of an 18%, around 18% since April. And for this table, I will use April as a baseline because we have the information available, and starting next calls, we'll just use August as a reference. Okay, but since April, there has been an 18% increase on the count of dog holders for the dopamine program. Going to the second table about the pies themselves, we are showing in this table the TBL and the pie holder metrics, and we are showing a comparison using again the April baseline data. We can see that DeFi Plus L has the #1 podium as with the largest TBL and amount of pie holders. Then we have DeFi Plus in the second place regarding the pie holders, and the one that has grown more in the last couple of months has been Play, increasing around 85% the amount of holders at the moment. So this is great. There's only one performing lower than April, 5% on YPI. The rest are showing an increase, and I think you can tell by the green or red labels. And this is information from August 11th, so it has a couple of days now. Before we move to the next slide, does anyone have any questions about the products and the dopamine rewards program? Okay, Alessio, would you mind going to the next one, please? Good. So this is just a very quick overview of this is the data as of today of the forum in last month. So we have new 5 topics that were open. This represented 25% of the total forum open entries from this quarter. All 5 had 64 replies in total. I would love to see this pumping up. That's part of the job we need to do to increase the community engagement. Every entry is very valuable, so if you're not doing it, I really encourage you to do it. I'm new in PineDAO, and it's very interesting to see what everyone thinks because that's a lot of value. And it also adds a lot of value to the DAO. So please feel free to jump in, read, get informed, and raise your opinion. It will benefit everyone. And on the right side, you will see the 5 top. It is just statistic. I'm not saying these were the top ones, but the statistics from the forum, the 5 top entries we currently have. We'll discuss them on the next slide into detail. Okay. And does everyone have any comments regarding this content? Any questions so far before we move on to the proposals?
Really,
All right.
me, more generally speaking, like I'm happy to see like a little bit sort of more participation to the forum, but I think like we can do a lot more. I think eventually establishing a sort of a better process on sort of funneling the proposal, like coming from ideas to an actual forum proposal, that will do sort of a lot of good for the community, like, and also sort of really pave the way to facilitate the entire process. And I'm excited to see that. If anybody in this call, like, you're obviously super welcome to join into the forum. Like, I just want to say, I know it feels like work, right? Like, and it's hard sometimes. I have to just, write long messages. I can make arguments in the most articulated way you can do. But I think it's a lot of value, and then I encourage everyone to take the time to do that.
Good. Thank you for the input, Alice. And if you can go to the next slide, we'll talk about the proposals. So the first one is the Pi signal proposal. This has a voting active ends on the 18th. It's the only one so far. Nico, would you like to make a brief introduction about what is it about and what's the benefit we will get from this proposal?
Sure. Very, very briefly. I don't want to take time to more important topics, but I mean, this tries to basically give a voice to community members that have ideas or suggestions, but can formalize them into a PAP, like a formal Pi improvement proposal, because it's not executive yet, or like there is not enough data, or they don't have the technical skills to write those proposals. But in this way, like this will be an attempt to capture community sentiment around certain topics. Like an easy example would be like members that suggest to do partnership with the DAOs on certain initiatives. Like in this way, we could capture basically the support of that idea without having a very detailed plan and proposal yet.
Cool. Thank you, Nico. And please, guys and girls, remember this is open for voting. So don't miss the opportunity to raise your hand and raise your voice. The next one is staking and governance mining. Alessio will cover this into detail in the next slide. So I will say let's skip this one for now because it will be double effort. I'll pass the torch to Brian Itzbell about the Community Contribution Initiative. If you can brief us up, Brian, if you're on call, of course.
Yeah, sure. You hear me all right?
Perfectly, yes.
Cool, great. Yeah, so this proposal, I think it kind of runs with a theme that we're seeing in a lot of the stuff that we've talked about today, which is how do we get more capacity out of all the stuff we're doing, from our Treasury, the Treasury Committee, to the new product management and recruiting efforts. This tries to take a similar stance at how we can get more contributions from the community and more ideas, and make it easier for people to find things that they might want to contribute to and propose things and manage those into completion so that we're creating value. So this proposal, it scopes 2 part-time roles, just because I think in order to build a new system and get new processes kind of in play, you really have to be able to hold some people accountable to it. And a good way to do that is to pay them to do it, and then you know, help assess their work and see how it goes. But what we're really trying to do here is standardize and build a system that makes it really easy for the product roadmap that kind of underlies where the DAO needs might sit in the future, and community generate ideas can meet somewhere in order for us to prioritize and find somebody who might really want to contribute and take on a task, incentivize that task, and then have a small set of people whose job is to try to make sure that work gets done in a timely manner, so we can show a lot more progress moving forward for the next town hall meeting. I would really appreciate more comments on this in the thread. There's some talk about how we pay people, whether it's in dough, and there's probably a framework to be developed around that kind of thing. But in general, I think this is one of those ones where the more voices we have and the more people we have kind of digging into this, the more valuable to be in a shorter term to get more people involved.
Cool. Thank you, man. Let's go to the next one, so we give everyone a little bit of time to speak. So the next one is about the Meta Governance Committee. Do we have Guzman, mass adoption, on the call?
Yep, I'm here.
Amen. Could you give us an update on this topic, please? Just very briefly, what it's about and the benefit the DAO will get from it?
Yeah, interesting enough, the former 2 discussed the latter two discussed topics kind of run in parallel with this one. Interesting enough. So basically, to kind of give a high level explanation, Brian's proposal is more offers a more macro sense on how the community could kind of coalesce and have ownership and responsibility throughout the DAO. Right. Mine is more of a niche proposal that offers more of a specific account on how can the community come together, whether through this committee, and actually provide DOE more of a utility. This is provide DeFi plus L and DeFi plus S more utility on the scope of governance. Right. As of right now, we're holding it as just index tokens, and that's completely fine. Now we have more exposure to the respective underlying assets. But now the overarching question is, what else can we do, and why should we do it? Okay, so what else can we do is we should definitely participate in the governance structure or the governance protocols that are offered in the underlying assets. For instance, DeFi plus L, for example, offers Comp, Aave, and Uni, just off the top of my head. So DOE holders should have the capacity to vote on any active proposals that are going on in those respective protocols. Very similar to how Index Co-op utilizes their index tokens towards voting, and DPI is the meta governance token that provides them exposure and accessibility towards these protocols. So that was kind of my rationale in submitting this proposal, is to kind of galvanize the community to see what everyone thinks. We could formalize this. I got a lot of great insight in terms of let's consolidate the committee from, I believe I submitted initially 6 to 8. The rationale behind that is the more people involved, the more decentralized and the more opinions are added, and rightly so. But I was told, hey, let's scale it down to maybe 3 and see how that goes. And that's completely fine. That's how the Index Co-op's committee started out, and they've done really well up till now. So yeah, that's basically my intent behind this proposal, is to kind of kickstart more use case behind DOE holders and give them more ownership with utilizing this token and utilizing the DeFi plus L and DeFi plus S index tokens. So yeah, thank you.
Cool. Thank you very much for that. I'll move to the next two. I guess Saganaki was going to be off, so I'll cover these two on his behalf. So I will read this, so just be nice. For Scale Pile, the purpose is to diversify exposure on the most relevant and promising projects working on scaling solutions. And the opportunity that has been defined is that we will take advantage of yield generation protocols in the DeFi space to render investment intrinsically productive through liquidity provision and collateralized lending. Sorry about that. It's a very interesting project. It needs to require some time to follow it. It's currently in progress. Saganaki has shared the roadmap of its development. The only issue we see is that it's currently acephalous. We need someone to lead this initiative. We're looking for someone that wants to put the leadership hat on this one, and take it as its own it, and help diving it through. There's a lot of information already done for this one. I would love to see someone from the community to raise a hand and say, hey, I read it, I'm interested to kick it off and continue this effort. The only reason why there's no one leading it is the person that was doing it just stepped away of the effort. But be mindful, this is open the forum, open for discussion, open for someone to take the lead on it. The second one is about the money market price. So the defined purpose is that it will serve as a standard place to safely park funds and earn diversified current market interest rates while being a risk-free and liquid as possible option. The opportunity is that said that many DAOs are currently pivoting towards diversifying their treasuries, creating a natural demand of products as this one. There was community interest on creating two pies, increasing the risk profile. One was a safer version, like only stable coins, and the second one is prime pie, so it's less safe and includes exposure to volatile pairs. The status of this initiative is just waiting. We're waiting to hear more from the community, which is the best strategy for the allocation of these two pies before we move to voting. I hope I sum it up correctly. Does anyone have any questions, any comments before we move on to the next topic, leaving the proposals behind? Okay, last call.
Yeah, from my
Does anyone have
perspective,
any-
well, yeah, I
Go
just
ahead.
want to leave a note, like it's, yeah, kind of connecting back to the point that I know it's sometimes very hard to put, sort of your thoughts on paper or like write them down like in a way which makes sense for the forum post. I think those things bring a lot of value. But it comes to me, it comes to mind that maybe like if someone of you like which is leading one of these proposals wants to organize sort of a specific meeting which is open enough for the other community members, like it would be you maybe like a good way to have a more direct sort of venue of confrontation for doing those, and maybe a good way. Like it's kind of just want to plant that seed and see if that grows.
Good. Thank you for
That's a great idea. Like some kind of a like brainstorming call for each proposal.
Right. Like there would be someone say, "Hey, by the way, like we want to organize this, sort of follow-up call for this specific proposal. Whoever is interested, please join like at this time, and we're gonna discuss it."
Cool.
That's how working groups are created.
And as well as Alicios. I think all three of ours kind of complement each other's in very interesting ways, especially in terms of Alicios governance mining. I think that's going to be a very interesting feature moving forward, and I'm sure it'll pass once it escalates to a consensus check. So, yeah, really looking forward to see what we build out. And I'll leave it at that. Thank you.
I leave one comment about the meta governance proposal just because I didn't get the chance to write that down to you, and I think that's a good venue. I've been thinking, like reading that proposal, what is the MVP version of like the meta governance committee, right? Like what is like the least sort of least amount of action that we can take to sort of prototype this thing. And I think like there are a couple of steps in the middle which are easier to execute than forming a committee. And one is actually propose a rebalance to exit some of the tokens you want to exercise governance into from the sort of lending position, and instead bringing them back into just real tokens. And that's one. And then I would like, once that's done, like you could probably run sort of the very first sort of meta vote just by monitoring any of the governance proposal happening in whoever the tokens like you're considering, and just make that run. And I think if you can make it happen, like concretely, a lot of people will be a lot more keen to see this moving on in a more structured way.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
I think one good first step would be if we have any assets which are not lended out and they're like compound compatible or some governance with delegation, we could delegate to like PIDAO friendly people. So that at least they have our back and they have some bigger vote influence, and we can delegate to them, which would be like one transaction to do.
Could you elaborate on that a little bit more?
Excellent sort of. Yeah.
Also, like in compound, you have delegation, right? So you can delegate to someone, and you don't have to vote yourself. But also the PI can do it. So our comp, for example, we could delegate to some person which is friendly to PIDAO, and then we could basically have give them the voting power of the pie without actually having to do some analyzing on the votes ourselves, but because they are doing it anyway.
No, then that's exactly something that I really touch on in the proposal. I think delegation is definitely something that should be implemented throughout the PI-DAO ecosystem. I think we should all be able to represent ourselves, or in this instance, the meta delegate could represent a whole. Those who don't want to participate in voting, the meta governance, the meta delegate will basically represent them, right? So those are the two distinctions, but I totally agree. I think delegation is imperative if we want to see this progress, and yeah, totally agree. And excuse the car sounds in the background. It's a lot of traffic where I'm at, so my apologies.
Oh, no worries. And also, like when we talk about governance and delegation and stuff, like one interesting piece of thought would be in the DOE staking. Like right now, people need to vote themselves to be eligible for rewards. Like, would we as a community consider to also allow people to delegate and then consider that as governance participation or not? Like trying to get a sense in the community how we feel about it.
Well, absolutely, and I think Alessio's governance mining proposal kind of touches on that very briefly. So basically, when you're staking, your DOE turns into VDOE, right? So it's the voting that token is now the voting asset, right? But those who also have not staked their DOE also serves as the voting asset as well, right? So now we're not just limiting those who are just holding the DOE token outright. Those who are also staking their DOE tokens and actively participating in the ecosystem could also participate as well. I guess a similar comparison could be seen with Origin Protocol. Origin Protocol, they just launched their governance feature, and those who are staking in I believe their 1 month, 3 month, or 1 year contracts, the OGN tokens receive a representative OGN power token in return. And those are proportionate to how much they stake, and they can participate in voting as well. So it's a very similar idea, similar concept that we could incorporate here to not just limit people holding DOE outright to delegate or to vote.
Yeah.
All right. Any other comments from anyone? Otherwise, shall we move on? Comes the most interesting part. No? Cool. So, Alessio, I'll leave it to you about DOE staking and the demo following the DOE staking presentation.
Alrighty. So, yeah, I think this is going to be fun for me to talk about. Generally speaking, as you guys might have seen, like in the governance forum, there is currently a proposal that we've been sort of nominating a couple of times over here, which is about DOE staking. I'm quite excited about it because this has been one of the open discussion of the PI-DAO community since the very beginning. We've been going through like a number of iterations of what sort of DOE staking means for us. We've been talking a lot about open participation. So I think this is eventually a very good proposal, like which embeds the vast majority of the feedback which have been collected over time and tries to answer all of the open questions which have been explored. So I wanna sort of talk a little bit before we go into the actual proposal itself, just a little bit of the current state. As I was mentioning during the implementation slide, we have been developing like everything which is from an operational perspective needed in order to make this work. So starting from the contracts, but also the peripheral sort of scripts to make this able to run in a variety of different ways, and then peripheral code which is related to the subgraphs, UI, and whatnot. One more thing is the simulator, which is something that we're going to see in a little while. So what I hope, generally speaking, like is that like since the state of the proposal is very advanced, like in terms that you guys can actually sort of get a good grasp the simulator to move this forward potentially soon. So I think I have a little bit of a schema here, which I kind of want to share. But generally speaking, what dose taking is basically bringing a few concepts together that I find quite interesting, related to how governance should behave and how to properly incentivize active participant in governance. The real concepts are very simple at the basis. What we're saying here is active participants should get rewarded for doing the real job of governing. And that's something that we see increasingly over time, like people who have been joining this community for a very long time, some of them more or less active, eventually have been giving a lot of value to this community in one form or another. And as I said in the forum post, like you very likely cannot expect to get paid just for showing up, right? So like it would be nice if eventually we manage to bind that action of bringing value to the community to rewards. There are a variety of different staking models out there in the wild, taking many different forms. What we're proposing here is very much binded to this idea of participation. And before we get into that, I also want to sort of just highlight that the way this solution has been designed is to be easily modifiable in terms of what the definition of active is. I was trying to explain into the forum post that when we say active participation, right now that entitles to a very simple definition, which is voting through the snapshot application. But it is designed in such a way that all sorts of inputs could be codified into a definition of participation. It could even be like, did you join a community call in the last couple of months or so, right? Maybe a good way to use POAP tokens. But yeah, let's get a little bit into the details. So what you can see from this schema is as follows. There are currently a number of initiatives which accrue value, either in the forms of fees directly from the pies, and most recently through the work of the Treasury Committee, in order to deploy funds in such a way which are generating more value. So all these funds are currently accrued in a variety of different wallets, either in the fee pot or in the Treasury multisig wallet, which is fairly new. And they're basically just sitting over there. One of the sort of desire that I think anybody has been having and seeing into DeFi is how do we fix the redistribution of fees and redistribution of revenues problem? That's something that most recently some DAOs have been pioneering. Some others are still waiting for the right model. We think this could be an interesting one. So the basic idea here is you see from the left, you have all these revenues coming from different sort of income stream, and then they all get binded into one place. And then we call this place like the reward pie. The reward pie is pretty much similar to any other pie. It's like every pie that you use every day. The only difference is that only the Treasury Committee in this case would be able to mint it. Everybody else will be able to sort of withdraw from it and just use it. And by the way, for the meta governance aficionados, even the reward pie will be meta governance enabled. So there is maybe something that we can discuss about that to make it happen more easily. Now that we have this reward pie, we actually have ways to reward active participants. And we want to think about active participants as people taking the time and the commitment to actually perform actions over time. There is a very interesting article, which I think some of you have been sharing in the Discord before. I think it was Saganaki, in terms of how long-term capital and long-term commitment is functional for the future of an organization, which I will definitely encourage everybody to go and check it out. I will also link it on the general channel right there. But the basic idea is that long-term capital and long-term commitment is valuable. And the reason is simple, right? So the people who commit both capital and time to the future of the organization are mostly incentivized to do the best for that organization. And that's the reason why in this specific staking model, voting power and rewards are to some degree binded to that. So we have the concept of staking the governance token, which is DO, into a new token, which is called VDO. For don't know is good. So it basically means you're going to take a bunch of dough, lock into the staking contract, and then you get back this other token, which is called VDOE. Now, in order to determine what the right amount of VDOE will be, we're going to use time commitment. So there is a minimum of 6 bumps allowed to a maximum of 3 years, which will basically determine the amount of VDOE which you will get. The longer, the better. So if you decide to go for the maximum amount, then you will get 1-to-1 ratio with your dough. So if you stake for 36 months, which is pretty much 3 years, 10,000 dough, you will get 10,000 dough, 10,000 VDOE. That's pretty easy. And then this sort of distribution follows a pretty easy curve that you will find in the forum post, which is definitely incentivizing the sort of the longer end of the curve. So from that perspective, like we now call VDOE holders DOE stakers, right? And VDOE holders are now able to participate in governance and do all sorts of things. From this perspective, like we want to make sure that they have the right incentive to do so. And then we want to pretty much like pay them for governing. Like I think that's a good way of putting that into words. And we've been sort of formalizing this concept into the sentence of governance mining. So as you keep making decisions as a VDOE holders, that will be recorded into pretty much an historical sort of a history file, which says every time you have been voting or not. And then by doing that, this will entitle you to earn rewards. So these rewards are coming from the rewards file that we've been discussing before, the one you can see on the left. So the basic idea here is if you have been actively participating and voting, then you are flagged as eligible. And in order to be eligible, that's very simple. At least by this definition, you will just need to be voting for the last 30 days. If you did forget or you didn't make the cut for the last 30 days, you still have a little bit more time. But if you have been idle for more than 90 days, then we know this is not a temporary thing. You're actually not participating at all. And then the rewards which were kind of assigned to you are instead redistributed to everybody else. So that's a little bit what the schema is showing you here. Now, there are a couple of things which I find particularly interesting about this model. One is sort of the source. I think the source of the rewards is a pretty interesting topic, right? We have been seeing for the vast majority of protocols sort of keeping the treasury pretty much by themselves, right? Like, or in the hands of few, like are kind of making the profit from the use of the treasury being very constrained. And instead, what we're proposing over here, it's actually quite new. What we're saying is like let's actively use those treasury to make as much as farming tokens as we can to some degree, or like whatever the Treasury Committee will find suitable, and then find a way to redistribute those to DOE holder. So in a sense, you might think that PyDAO might become sort of a distribution platform for other governance token, while sort of offering like a very valuable service to other DAOs as it's not dumping their tokens. Instead, like it's kind of finding new user for them. And I find that like quite interesting, and we call this concept non-parasitic farming. That's something that most recently, I think a lot of you have been seeing through Convex Finance, and I think it's working out very well. It creates sort of a synergistic environment for DAOs to work together. So I can see a future where sort of, especially new DAOs can come to PyDAO and say, hey, why don't you guys consider to be a liquidity provider with us, and then redistribute to your holders our own governance token. So that's an interesting one. Besides, there is the concept of regular cash flow, which I'm quite excited about because I don't think we have been seeing right now any sort of like cash flow which is binded to specific action which are governance related. And I'm excited to see how does that play out. Now, I might have another slide here, but before we go to the let's chat part, I kind of want to show you a little bit the simulator. there are a lot of moving parts within this proposal. There is the Treasury Committee, there is the revenue the Treasury Committee is making, there is a lot of people who can stake for different times. So this can really be. Sorry. There you go. So this can be a tiny bit different, right? So we worked out like a little tool which is supposed to help you understand the kind of scenario that might emerge from this initiative. And that's the simulator. There is no link right now from the website. There is a link, of course, like on the presentation, but also I will be showing that like on the general channel. You could find some content like a sort of an easy way to understand this governance minings concept, right? Like the professor should put to work, create a wealth creation machine for active governance member. Vito is the new black, like this all the great design that Nico makes. But what I wanted to show you like is one, this schema over here, how it works. Like this is a sort of a more user-friendly version of what we've been just discussing, which is, you have a bunch of products, like these are coming in the form of pies. You have the organization treasury management. You might have all sorts of custom services coming from PyDAO, which are generating, revenues. This money is getting piped into the treasury itself, which eventually, through the committee, gets deployed into a variety of different strategies. That may be in the form of a balancer pool, into a SushiSwap LPing, Uniswap, Cure, and so on and so forth. Now, from this, what I'm proposing, at least at the current stage of this proposal, is that there is a split of whatever the farming rewards are into a 60, 15, and 25. Now, 60% is the one which is designed here to actually be fueled into the rewards pie. And that's what we'll be just discussing here, because the rewards pie eventually is distributed to active DAO members, which are joining the governance coordination game. And 15% is designed to cover like all sorts of operational costs which might arise over time. And then you have a 25%, which is instead destined to come back into the treasury itself. So why is that important? Because like obviously you want to find yourself in the situation where this treasury is not only sort of preserving value, but also growing over time, right? Because in this game, the larger the treasury, like the larger the TVL in the pies, the larger the fees. The larger the TVL into the treasury, the larger the amount of tokens that will be farmed through. So it's kind of a no-brainer that there is a which is auto-compounding. And there you go. Here you got like the reward simulator. I'm actually gonna put this full screen. You guys should be able to see it. I think so. So what the reward simulator does is give you a tool or framework for pretty much testing your assumption. It's very hard to understand exactly what is going to happen when and if this proposal gets deployed. But we have a little bit of informed there are some informed decisions that we can make based on some of the assumptions. So we know that roughly, but what Janov has been reporting before, like we have roughly 15 millions into the treasury right now being used to farm. Now, what you can do is to, first of all, decide your expectation about what the treasury APR will be. This obviously changes over time, right? So like this should be sort of an average. We've been seeing like very good times in the last 6 months or so. Like things have been a little bit less fast in the last couple of months. But generally speaking, like you can decide whatever you want, right, about that. And then another very relevant sort of data that you need to play with is how do you think the scenario of DAO staking will play out? So if you click on this button here, you get this tool which helps you basically play out with this scenario. It's going to tell you, hey, you know what? Like there are roughly 17.5 million DAO into the circulating supply today. How much of this DAO will be staked according to you, right? And then you can pick pretty much the number that you want, obviously including the maximum. You can even select what you think like that will be distributed in? Is it going to be like, most of it being staked for the maximum amount? Is it going to be some of them being distributed for the minimum amount? Like, you can make your own scenario, right? And then once you do that, the simulation over here will update. You can also select, obviously, like this name of the total DAO will change. And you can also, of course, select the amount of DAO that you are planning to stake if you're going to join these initiatives and for how much. In this case, we are staking 100,000 DAO for 36 months. As such, we get a 1-to-1 ratio. Now, if you look at this projected over here, like assuming this value will eventually come true, like we can see how things have been playing out for us. We can see our expected returns on a yearly basis. We can see our monthly returns. We can see our expected APR in relation to the current DAO price. So this is assuming that you are buying DAO like today. And then you can see how the Treasury is doing, right? How the Treasury has been, is expected to return, like by according to those values. What is the monthly sort of breakdown, and in general, like what is the amount of VDAO that will be existing over time. You get this like in three forms of tabs. Like you can see sort of the Treasury breakdown, like they will have a similar trajectory, of course. You can see the rewards distribution or the expected total return. You can change these in any way you want. Of course, the more DAO will be there. And for the maximum amount, like if you think, over 55% will be basically staking for the maximum amount, then you will see like your return go down, right? And then at the same time, if instead you are thinking that like there will be short-term commitment, right? Everybody will go for the short-term commitment, and instead you are staking for 36 months, then you'll make a lot more money. So this is, of course, all these numbers are fictional, like you shouldn't take them as predictive, right? But this is, since there are a lot of moving parts, we felt it was a sort of a great thing to provide a little bit of a more interactive tool for people to play out the scenarios they have in their head. And that's what the simulator does. You can also sort of save your own simulator, your own simulation, and then share that with other members in the community or on Twitter or really whatever you want, and say like, okay, this is my, community call scene. You will easily get a permalink from it, and then that's it, right? Like you just copy this thing, and then anytime you want it, like you can share it with others. So now that the simulator sort of demo wraps up, I would really like to sort of open the discussion about, more generally speaking, the DAO staking proposal, and any questions you might have about that. I might have been speaking too long, and then everybody fell asleep or something.
I'm still here, Alessio. Like maybe you can talk about the technical implementation of the new governance system, like what's in the planning. Like I know for sure, but like with the Aragon V2 and how it's going to work with off-chain voting, and that you don't need to spend any gas participating.
Oh yeah, for sure. Like it's so one of, if you go like to I think the very last forum post about the previous implementation of the staking, there was a sort of a recurring comment from community members, which is, active participating is good. Like we should do that, but like we need to make sure that people don't have to spend gas for voting, otherwise nobody's gonna do it. And we are now facing like it was a little bit of an uncomfortable truth, like especially when we FileDAO started, like back then, I think gas price was around one way. You guys remember? Well, like things has been changing a lot since then. So one of the things that we wanted to prioritize is finding ways for people to be able to work, to vote. And I say to work because I actually see active participation as work, either in the form of voting or other action, but to work like in a way that they don't have to spend money. As for now, from a technical implementation since we still use main sort of signaling and sentiment gathering tool and a voting tool for off-chain, we've been building the implementation based on that. But the basic idea would be soon in the future, when either change that like into sort of a collection of a variety of different tools which signal active participation, but also bind that to some sort of smart contract which will enable optimistic execution. Optimistic execution is something that I did not put into this proposal just yet. It's not described, but I'm happy to talk about it a little bit now. And it's basically the concept that we should ideally, like in an ideal world, we should be in a place where voting into a tool such as Snapshot creates the condition for things to be executed on chain in such a way which is direct, right? Like right now, there is a little bit of a middleman, and that happens in a lot of organizations, from Wired, including to POAP to some degree, which are multisigs, operational multisigs. Someone votes into a tool such as Snapshot, those action gets seen by like whoever is operating the multisig, and eventually replicates the outcome on chain. Now, for the long term, what we hope to see is like solutions to fix that, and there is actually some initiatives being currently implemented by the Aragon Foundation for the Aragon V2, which use this concept of optimistic execution. And basically, what they're going to do is, take the result of any of the off-chain tool. Let's make an example that's Snapshot of whatever the votes is going to be, and then try to optimistically execute that on chain pretty much automatically. There will be a way for create an economic guarantee that vote was not tampered with, and they do that by creating sort of a contestation system, which will basically enable you to raise your hand and say, hey, you know what, like I actually don't think the outcome of that vote was exactly that. So I'm gonna sort of open a contestation. I'm gonna pay some money for doing so, and then if my claim is correct, then everything is cool. Like, and actually, I will be getting paid for having raised my hand, like I'm being an organ of control. But if I was wasting like everybody's time, then I will pay my bonding pretty much. As I said, that's not in the current proposal. Like I think some of these tools are either still being developed or in a phase where we want to see them like a little bit sort of battle tested. But it's a very exciting idea that like in a very near future, sort of VDO holders can directly sort of execute action on chain without passing through intermediary. And that will pretty much increase the level of decentralization, by a lot. What else we can say about the implementation? I think one interesting aspect, which has been decided from a technical perspective, was the use of Merkle roots. So as for now, I think if you're a little bit technical or anything, but like you should think about this box of deciding if you're an active participant or not as an adapter to some degree, like a piece of software which can potentially change over time or evolve, and which eventually gives a binary outcome if you have been flagged as an active participant or not. And that binary outcome eventually gets plugged into what we call a Merkle root. Like a Merkle root has been becoming fairly common tool nowadays in DeFi. Like you might have used that if you claimed, for instance, the Uniswap airdrop, or like any sort of other airdrops out there are using them. And so we've been using them like to basically implement this sort of gateway system to only enable claiming overwords to selected people. I also specified that into the proposal, like from a more technical perspective, but like there is also a mechanism which will basically force people out, assuming their staking period is expired. So that's right. People should understand that that's an important part of the architecture, because if people who have been staking for, let's say, 6 months are not done staking themselves, and then they're basically sitting there even more, that means that they will be earning rewards, right? So in order to avoid that, we have to pretty much build a system to eject those people. And anybody can eject anyone whose time lock is expired. So this is something that very likely will be performed by some sort of keeper bots. But at the end of the day, it's an open process, and anybody who has the skills to go on Etherscan and select the right lock can eject them. There is nothing in place as such as for now, but I would expect over time to see potentially even some small incentivization scheme for that to happen to facilitate the sanity of the entire system. Am I missing anything interesting, Nick?
Maybe because we're generating this off chain, and this mechanism can change over time. Everyone will be able to run this stuff, right? If you run the script, and everybody will be able to generate the same participation Merkle tree. And when this gets notarized or when this gets changed, if it changes to another script, will it also be subject to DAO vote? Or?
Absolutely. It's so if you ever claimed, let's put it this way, if you ever claimed something like the Bull rewards, right, from their own DApp, this has a similar approach. So the basic idea is that the entire architecture for you to generate the Merkle root will eventually be, it's actually already open source, right? You can already run it. There is no system on mainnet today, but you can run it, and then that will generate the Merkle root for you. The current adapter, so that means everybody is able to verify that outcome is correct, and as it should be. This also opens a lot of flexibility. And as Mick said, it's expected if any of these adapters change, the DAO decides, in the future, that the new rule for participation is also, joining a working group, or I don't know, at least introducing yourself into the forum, anything really. That can be sort of codified into this set of scripts that everybody can run at any time that will generate the Merkle root for participation. And you can think, I'm sure, once we establish this system a little bit more, all sorts of crazy things could happen. And I'm actually quite excited about that, because DAOs are first and foremost a tool of coordination, right? And anything which is related to joining these groups, could be potentially codified. You could even think a system not far from here, when you have monthly tasks, right? You basically log in with your MetaMask on the PyDAO website, and you have 10 tasks you have to at least achieve. One is I don't know, right? Retweeting these things, or participating to the discussion, joining this call, right? It could be anything. And then I think we put together a very flexible system to enable those things, and to pretty much reduce the gap from the experience of Web 2.0 application to sort of Web3 rewards, if that makes sense, in the sense of DAO participation. Any other question, or topic people would like to discuss about this specific proposal? Cool. Okay, so on this perspective, I can maybe provide on my side some sort of open question, which would be interesting to explore later in the future. I think there are a couple within the forum post even today that you can go and check it out. But there are opinion, everything, right? To make the DAO machine work like as fast as possible and to create the tooling to codify that participation. How would they look like? That's an interesting one, and that's a little bit the open-ended one. And then there are like a little bit of more practical things, which is, do you believe that only long-term committed capital should be having voting power? And if not, what would be the weights between a regular DAO compared to VDAO? Is VDAO only claiming sort of rewards compared to anybody else, or is it the only one deciding? And if they are both deciding, to which degree? That would be also an interesting question to debate a little bit more. I know a couple of you have been sort of thinking about eDAO. I think that's again sort of an open question. We have some ideas like how eDAO plays a role into the system. Can we convert eDAO into stake DAO? What do we do with those? So I think we are pretty much a lot further along, but there are like a lot of peripheral decisions, which are interesting talking points. And I invite anybody of you, of course, to join that discussion, either into the forum post or into this community call.
Like how's the current situation? Is it like only DAO voting or only VDAO voting or both VDAO and DAO? Like how would
this is actually not specified like into the proposal as for now. It will need to be before this goes into a PIP, sort of a numbered PIP stage, and then ready for voting. My suggestion would be to either have only VDAO voting or give to VDAO like a very large weight into the sort of the voting power, assuming that might be a combination of both. And for the reasons that I briefly introduced before, which is the idea of long-term capital, long-term committed people. And I added like a little note into the forum post with this article, which I really encourage everybody to go and check it out. There are very good reasons why this is generally speaking desirable. Besides sort of fixing the free riding problem to some extent, and also making governance a little bit more resilient, more in general. So I would suggest only VDAO voting, or
I agree. Only for me, only VDAO should vote, but that's just me.
Yeah, I mean, there are very good reasons why this should be the case. Like, I think we have been very iterative, like, and experimenting with these things. I think we have been the very first project sort of including LP people, like LP tokens into voting power. But at least from my perspective, I now see how that sort of short-termism in the decision making by people who only or mostly wanted to farm was maybe incorrect.
Yeah, I agree. Like in some proof of stake networks, all proof of stake networks, like the stakers get like inflation. Now the stakers get farming rewards. Would you see a future where people also get some DAO inflation, where they increase in voting power compared to non-DAO holders? So.
Yeah, correct. Like, and I think that's I also want there is like a point to be sort of touched. Like, I think someone else brought this up like through the forum post. I think it was Janova. How this might affect current farming rewards. I think this may be the occasion to rethink some of that, or to rethink a lot of that. I would rather see sort of though inflation rewards go to the necessary to LP providers. So
I think you need to repeat it, Alessio, because the audio was not good.
No, I just said like I would rather see like a lot of the sort of the DAO inflation rewards going into active stakers than necessarily farmers to some degree. And that actually creates a very interesting mechanism, right? Because like if you're giving them only the DAO, and then you're kind of luring them into the governance game, you're basically telling them, hey, you know what, like you can farm if you like, but then you're gonna get this governance token, which you actually need to use, right, in order to make it profitable for yourself. And then if you don't want to govern, fine, but then you shouldn't just farm and dump, right? That's not what governance tokens are meant for.
How would that work with the current cooldown? As I believe all current farming pools have 3-month cooldowns.
I'm sorry, what is the question? Like, how would that work with the current cooldown?
All of our current farming pools have a guarantee that they can't be turned off for like 3 months. So, would we be seeking to like initiate those cooldowns soon if you're trying to make changes to that, or how would we approach those cooldowns?
I think we are now sort of approaching the next. Actually, this Friday is approaching the next reward period. Like, if any of those needs to change, like we will need to make I think a specific proposal by then. So, and there might be the chance that we will need to be waiting for a little bit, I think.
Yep. Okay. I think that's fine. But cool. Good to know.
Yeah, and also right now in the current situation, we have like 80% of the rewards are being invested in EDO. And actually did a PR against DAO liquidity mining to be able to, instead of doing the EDO, instead of put it into the VDO. So you actually stake it automatically. So instead of like your rewards being invested, you're gaining voting power and gaining reward share. So I think that would be an interesting thing to discover.
Like, and that will not necessarily need to wait any sort of rewards period, I think. Yeah, so like that may be like a very good solution, but like any sort of reward inflation schedule, I think it would be non-changeable for the next 3 months, maybe. Actually, Gab, do you remember how much is that? Like, I think that's the one starting tomorrow. It's your line still. No. We're almost 2 hours in. No.
Yeah, we are on way
right.
on top of it. What we expect.
Yeah.
Anyways, very good questions and topics all over the place. All over the meeting.
There was a line a bit disturbed. Ale, I just got you were asking something, but the connection was down for me.
No, I was asking confirmation that the new sort of reward schedule for dopamine starts this Friday, and then for how long that's supposed to run. Do you recall that?
Okay, so but basically the program itself, it's organized on periods. So each one is 200,000 blocks. So this one should be starting on this Saturday night, and it's the 5th period. And then, as per current governance decision, the program itself is structured to go on and on. So there should be at certain point some decision around, how the dopamine program should be framed in respect of like new updates coming up with like staking and stuff like that. So I expect to have like some proposal probably coming up soon, ruling this, side of things.
Cool. Thank you.
All right. Does anyone have anything else to bring up to the table? Any other topic to discuss? Suggestions?
Yeah, this is Kit. I'm doing the notes, and somebody is typing in the notes. They say that they're not in the call because there's not enough place, but his name is Snook or Snook. And he asks, would it be an idea to be able to use eDo for VDO?
Yeah, like that's something that I think we were just commenting. Like I think sort of a compounding proposal, which I would love to push forward, is that can we turn the current eDo directly into sort of maximum vested VEDO? And I think that's doable from a technical perspective. Like, and then it's the sort of the best possible outcome for eDo holders today.
Okay, I'm typing your answer into the notes, so it's being relayed to Snook. No other questions from me.
Thank you very much, Kit. I still have like the open. I still have your novel, like, but that I need to read. You've been posting that like a couple of days ago.
Oh yeah, it's entertaining. So when you need a 5-minute break, it's a good one.
I will do that. Like, it's on my to-do list.
All right.
All right. So like one more thing before we go, I think.
Go ahead. Go ahead. Sorry.
No, just before we go, like I think we want to really get into a place again where these community calls happen on a fixed schedule, and potentially even more. So we would like to sort of pre-communicate that the next community call is already pre-scheduled September 10th, 2021. So like not long from now, and hopefully we always get into a place where these are getting the most, way more informative, as much informative as they can be, like, and effective.
Great, you stole my thunder. I was going to say, brace yourselves. The next
Sorry, Adrian. Sorry.
Yeah, you know how much time I spent doing that slide with the cutting the lenses, putting on that start. Okay, cool. Yeah, we will be working on a communication plan, and the cadence of the community calls is one of the items of discussion. Of course, everything we propose can be fixed, changed. 1 month or every 2 or 3 weeks sounds reasonable. The more time we give, the more we can prepare, but at the same time, the news get a bit older. Yet, part of the community plan includes a newsletter, which we are going to start issuing starting next week. And we'll start getting some blog posts running as well. So we'll keep things in motion communication-wise. We'll keep as transparent as possible. If we deviate from the road where you start seeing no action, kick our heads, okay? And we'll get it back on track. The idea is that we set up a framework, we set up a group of people, and we can all get you updated regularly and on a sustainable base, right? I think that's all. We gave enough time for everyone to jump in and talk. Discord is open. Submit your questions, comments, wherever you feel free to speak up. We'll post the meeting notes, sorry, the content and the recording on the same place. And we'll send the link on the announcements page, so you can get in there and read it or see this video again anytime you want. I think that will be all for today. On behalf of the team, I appreciate your time, the time you're spending here with us, listening to our updates, and this time you spent helping out. Please keep up the good work, keep up the collaboration, go to a forum, help us move stuff forward. Raise your hand if you can, or if you want to collaborate. We should enable you to be able to contribute, and you should be able to contribute on your own if you see the opportunity to do something that will benefit the DAO, right? And with that, unless anyone has any further comments, we'll be happy to wrap it up. Good.
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks,
Thank you.
Very
everybody.
much, Adrian. Thanks
Hi,
everybody
everybody.
for joining.
Thanks all.
Cheers.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, everybody.
You guys, bye. But thank you guys, it was
Make
fun.
more PRs. Ciao.
Ciao.
Thanks, everyone.